This is the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast, and we're coming to you midsummer. As you can hear, I've got a sprightly tone in my voice. I'm feeling very relaxed, very refreshed. We've had a bit of a rest. We decided to take a little bit of a break from the Beesotted for a while, just to get ourselves back in the flow. My name is Billy Grant, and I'm sitting here with Lady in the virtual joint. He's been a different virtual joint. The last time you heard from him, he was all over in the Far East, but he's now back on home soil, but only for a few weeks, only for a week or so before he jets off again, and myself jet off again on Bees action. Laney, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm in that tricky kind of late close season, early pre-season kind of vibe. You know, it's very difficult to work out, isn't it? You know, now the friendlies have started. Is it summer? You know, is it season again? I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing some action though, some Bees action.
So have you been in pre-season training by any chance?
What, for this podcast?
Or just in general?
Well, yeah, I've got my my mic skills. I've been sort of practicing that leading up to this, and I've sort of plugged and unplugged USB a few times just to get prepared for this. So I'd say I've been hard in pre-season training. Yeah.
And to be fair, you've actually been in pre-season training quite a lot when you were in the Far East, actually, because you're up to all sorts of malarkey over there, sort of kind of, you know, drinking things and not drinking things and not eating bits and pieces and getting yourself all healthy in the sun out there. How was it over in Thailand?
It was bonkers, yeah. If anyone's interested, I'll tell you, I did like a total transformational detox for 12 days without eating food. Fasting, obviously drinking lots of water and stuff, and yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, like yoga, meditation, walking up mountains. It was an incredible thing to do. I was surprised that I didn't get hungry in best part of 2 weeks, and even when I could eat again, I just didn't fancy it. So yeah, I feel like I've had a complete reset. So ready to retox when I go to the States. No, I'm trying not to undo all the good work I've done in the summer. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend it.
That's right, and you even had a bit of bee action out there as well. Like I said to you, a few bees over in the Far East as well, weren't there?
Yep, there's a couple of Brentford fans that live on Koh Samui where I was, so I hooked up with them. Had a few drinks and had some really quality food with them afterwards, and yeah, it was great to kind of be in this tropical paradise and sort of like have bees mates around as well. So yeah, it's Brentford everywhere, as we well know, Bill.
Brentford, 100% Brentford everywhere, as they say. We're going to find out actually more about Brentford everywhere when we go to the USA, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But before we talk about that, let's just talk about pre-season in general, because pre-season is well and truly up and running. And you know pre-season is well and truly up and running when Lady's phone goes off and he's got the phone call from, I don't know, from the manager of Boreham Wood saying, "Lady, what did you think of that match last night?" And Brentford played Boreham Wood last night. Like I said to you, you know the Bees pre-season is up and running when we play Boreham Wood, because we play Boreham Wood literally every single season. There must be a reason for us playing Boreham Wood. I think they just know Boreham Wood. They know them well. You know, decent pitch. You know, decent sort of kind of level side. They're quite physical, but they also play at a decent level. So yes, Boreham Wood every season. And like I said to you, the game last night, which we played against Boreham Wood, ended up Boreham Wood 1, Brentford 1. Which was just quite funny, because the doommongers are already out sort of thinking we're going to get relegated because we've only drew to Boreham Wood in our first game of the season. But I don't think you can quite take it that way. Interesting kind of a side that was put out, or sides should I say, that was put out, wasn't it, Lady?
Yeah, it was a very much one of those game of two half lineups. We put out a stronger team in the first half, and then more kids and B teamers in the second. And you know, we know from like time that you can't really read anything into these matches whatsoever. You know, they don't really mean any more than a run out. And I listened to Thomas Frank talking after the game, and he was saying that, you know, it allowed them just basically to expand a little bit more than they're already doing in the, on the training pitch. And it's all slowly now, isn't it? I know the players have come back. Anyone that's seen the media department's sort of first week back in training videos, they've been doing the 1K challenge, and it's very much sort of getting the legs moving, and they're all fit. I mean, I don't think any of them come back like they used to in the past, having sort of literally been stuffing their faces with chips every day, and sort of like being sick at the side of the pitch when they're asked to break sweat. They're all elite athletes now. So I mean, he had to talk after a game, but really, he really meant to say it's just Boreham Wood. It's just a little bit of a run out. We won't really know until we get to the States and we're up against Premier League teams. That's how we're going to measure ourselves. And then obviously we've got that game at the G-Tech against Lille, which that's a very closely matched game. But it's just it's just part of the process, isn't it? Just to see the players back out, see everyone sort of like smiling and enjoying the warmer weather, and getting ready for our third season in the Prem, mate.
Yeah, and interesting, we go through the team. I mean, interesting goalkeeper choice there, Ellery Balcombe, who, has been out and known quite a lot. Very highly regarded player, got into the England 21 side, and then he got injured. And then since he's come back from injury, I have to be fair, say he's not been quite the keeper that that we thought that he was going to aspire to be. But again, keepers sometimes peak at the age of 28, 29, 30, 31. So he's still got a long way to go. But Ellery Balcombe on the team there. And then in the second half was actually Cox in goal. So there was actually no sign of Mark Flecken, who's our new signing keeper that we've got, and also no sign of David Rayo. I don't think we expected to see him anywhere near Boreham Wood, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, we've got we've got Roslev and the team as well. Ethan Pinnock, who interestingly as well, Jamaica are actually tonight. They're actually playing in the Gold Cup quarter-final. Jamaica are playing Panama over in America as well. Actually, no, it's not the quarter-final, it's the semi-final. They're playing in the semi-final actually tonight. They actually won their quarter-final game against Mexico, so they beat Panama 1-0 a couple of days ago. But Ethan Pinnock didn't actually play because his wife has just had another baby, and I believe that there was a slight complication somewhere, so Ethan decided not to fly over to America for that game. So let's hope that everything is okay there with Ethan and his family. Everything is fine. So Ethan didn't play in that. I don't know whether or not he's maybe flying over for the semi-final or maybe even the final if they get there. But like I said to you, the Reggae Boys, Jamaica, are well on track for the Gold Cup final. The last time they got to the Gold Cup final, I was there actually. They played Mexico in 2015 in Philadelphia. Actually, the stadium, I think the stadium that you're actually going to go and watch the Bees playing. I was actually in that stadium. You'll see it. It's quite a big stadium. So yeah, I saw the Jamaica in the Gold Cup. So Pinnock, Ben Mee, of course, we know about him. Rico Henry, interesting player again. Yarmulke, which we've probably forgotten a little bit about. He was a player that was quite highly hyped. Came over from Ukraine. And then we put him straight into our B team. But he's one of these players who's like a B team plus A team, first team minus player, where he's quite good for the B team, but he's not quite there for the A team. But we expect him to possibly be there in a year or two's time. So it's interesting to see the development of Yarmulke, on that. So okay, we've got Yenel, we've got Paris Magoma as well, who was on loan to Franchise FC, aka MK Dons last season. He was going to go to Cambridge, and then at the last minute he went to Franchise FC. And a lot of Wimbledon fans were really unhappy about it. And they started slagging him off and slagging us off and slagging our coaching team off and everybody off, because we sent him to MK Dons when he was actually on loan at AFC Wimbledon, and we said, not be funny, mate, nothing to do with us. So yeah, he went there, and Franchise FC, they didn't do particularly well last season. In fact, they got relegated, if I remember rightly. I think they got relegated last season, and if he stayed at Cambridge, I think that they would have stayed up. Just slightly. So he's there. Keane Lewis Potter. Now, Keane Lewis Potter is an interesting one, lady, because he came with great hopes. Big signing for us. 20 million-ish. From Hull City, we thought he's going to be a big player, and then didn't quite sort of kind of shine. Then he got injured, and he's gone away, and he's just starting his recovery now. But there were signs of him being a decent player once he got over that initial hurdle, wasn't it?
We've seen him in only spluttering spurts, haven't we? I don't feel like I've seen anywhere near enough of him to cast a real opinion on him. it seems a big price tag for what I've seen so far. Let's be honest. I mean, the injury aside, there has been some good touches. There's been a couple of good moves, but it's all still to do for Lewis Potter in a Brentford shirt. So yeah, it's good that he's fit and at the start of a new season, because it could be an important one for him, because we expect to see the exciting winger that we signed. It's as I said, it's a big price tag, and you got to live up to that. That's par for the course in the Premier League.
Okay, and then interesting, first half as well, we had Dervisoglu again, who started another pre-season for Brentford. I mean, every year he kind of has a pre-season for us, and then he disappears off to another club on loan. And the rumours was that he was going to go over to Turkey, but obviously the season hasn't come to an end as yet. But the rumours was that he was going to go for a medical in Turkey. Next minute he's turned up at Boreham Wood, so obviously his medical either hasn't taken place or it hasn't gone to plan. But Dervisoglu. Still part of the Brentford setup. I mean, that's an interesting one, isn't it, Laney?
I like Halil. I just again, we've just really not seen enough of him. Whenever this sort of time of year comes, he appears in the friendlies and the early season League Cup matches, and he looks like he could do a job for us. And then he disappears on loan, with a host of Turkish clubs apparently looking for him, but none of them wanting to put their hands in their pockets. It might be another one of those where we just might have to let him go, and hope that at some stage he gets sold again and we get the money there. He's armed with loads of potential, and as I said, I've kind of been impressed with him every time I've seen him play. But it's whether he's at that level to be pushing for first team over maybe turning a little bit of a profit on him and get him rid. But yeah, that's one that needs a bit of closure, I think. Dervisoglu, he's done nothing wrong, but obviously he's just not rated as first team quality.
Yeah, an interesting player as well, Olakigbe. Olakigbe, it's Michael Olakigbe who joined our B team, actually 18 years old, from Fulham. So he was in the Fulham youth setup. He's joined our B team, but just the interesting thing I say is that he's the only player from what I can see that actually played in the first half and also played in the second half. So I don't know if they're sort of giving it the old once over, that lady, ye old once over. So so Olakigbe there. The first, like I said, second half we got Cox, Kramer, Kim, Matt Beck, Sorensen, who from what I can gather didn't have a particularly great game as well, but again maybe rusty coming off the season. This is what close seasons are for. We had Far Baptiste is in there as well, obviously lots of Premier League minutes there as well. Ryan Trevitt as well. So we're going to talk about Ryan Trevitt. Ryan Trevitt as well, who we think may be going out on. We might be going out on loan at some stage as well. So he might be going out on loan. We got Ugani as well, and then Pert Harris, and then Olakigbe again, then Young Coombs as well. So and Paris Magomi we think is going to be going out on loan as well. He came, like I said to you, he came back from Franchise FC, but we think he's going to be going out on loan as well. So like I said to you, a younger side in the second half, 1-1, and they kind of they did what they had to do, didn't they? Yes, they did, and I know a few of the Beesotted crew. They went along and watched that one, and yeah, it's just muscle memory, isn't it? It's just like going along and watching friendlies in grounds that we were used to back in the day. That's where all our pre-season friendlies were, at places like Boreham Wood, rather than where we're heading to next weekend for these kind of super duper spaceship stadiums around North America. Yes, and talking about US tours, Brentford are off on their USA tour next week. It's not long to go now. Very, very exciting. I was thinking back to this, where the last time we actually went on a tour was a proper tour. I mean, we've been on other tours as well, but a proper tour is when we went to the Anglo-Italian Cup in 1992, when we went to Ascoli and places like that. We took all sorts of fans out there because we were so excited that Brentford had played abroad, and this is the first time we're playing abroad. I mean, we've played in Germany and done pre-seasons here and there and places, but this is proper. This is big. These are big stadiums. These are lots of fans kind of come and see us locally as well. So very, very excited exciting. There's going to be 3 games that Brentford are playing in this USA tour. The 23rd of July, which is a Sunday, they're going to be playing Fulham. On Wednesday the 26th of July, they're going to be playing Brighton, and on Sunday the 30th of July, they're going to be playing Aston Villa. So the Fulham game is in Philadelphia, the Brighton game is in Atlanta, and the Villa game is going to be in Washington. There's a little bit of activity going on in and around all these events as well. So for anyone who's either travelling out there, or I know there's lots of Brentford fans who are actually based in North America, either Canada or the USA itself, or maybe even flying in from other places. I've got no idea, So so there's going to be lots of activity taking place over the whole week out there. So myself will be out there, Laney will be out there, so we'll definitely bump into you at one of these do's. I mean, just to give you the little bit of the lowdown on what is happening, on Saturday the 22nd of July, 5 p.m. at McGillen's Old Ale House in 1310 Drury Street in Philadelphia. There's going to have a bees get together there. Okay, so check that one out. On Tuesday the 25th of July at 6 p.m. at Wild Leap Brewery and 125 Ted Turner Drive in Atlanta. There's a bees get together there from 6 to 9 as well, or 6 till bar shuts really as well. On Wednesday the 26th July, run from about midday, that's before the match, on the Wednesday in the Park Bar 150 Walton Street Northwest in Atlanta. It's about 10 minutes walk from the stadium as well. The Bees fans are going to be meeting up there for all afternoon, then going off to the game, which like I said is 10 minutes away from the stadium. And then on the Saturday the 29th in the Hawk and Griffin from 6 o'clock in 435 Maple Avenue West in Vienna, Virginia. That's about 25 minutes drive from central Washington. That's the Bees are getting together in that bar, the Hawk and Griffin, from about 6 o'clock p.m. All the matches, like I said to you, are on TV. They're on Sky TV. You can check that out in your schedule. You can watch it, you record it, you can see what's going on down there. So it's all real, isn't it, Laney?
Yeah, it's really getting excited. I mean, I know that the games themselves are pretty meaningless. There's obviously those that are going are massively looking forward to it. The ones that aren't, they probably they either can't afford it, or they just kind of can't be bothered with pre-season games. And I understand that if you're not into it, you're not into it. But the games are on Sky. The first one's on at 9 p.m, second one 10:30 p.m, and then the game against Aston Villa's 5 o'clock on Sky, so you can watch them there. But it's going to be a bit of a kind of Brentford stroke World Cup experience, isn't it? Just sort of like a long way away from home, meeting up in bars random times during the day, and just kind of mixing with other fans from different places around the world. I'm looking forward to that. The games themselves, as I said, they don't ultimately mean anything. We could lose all 3. It doesn't mean we're going to have an awful season, but it's just unique. I'm glad I'm going. It's not something I'll probably do every season, but it's the inaugural one, and I couldn't. The fear of missing out was too strong, Bill. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, sharing it with good mates as well. I booked a ridiculous train journey yesterday from Philadelphia to Atlanta. It goes for 4 o'clock in the afternoon and doesn't get to Atlanta till 17 hours later. So it's an overnighter. It's going to be long, but we'll have some laughs on that. It's just an excuse to see a different part of the world and to explore as well. So I'm gagging for it actually now.
Yes, Pottiness is definitely there from the Laney as well, and I'm looking forward to it as well. Unfortunately, I'm missing the Fulham game, which is the first match, but the Fulhamish posse will be out there, Laney. I'm sure that you'd like to hook up with them, and
we can have some cake together.
That's right. So so hook up with the Fulhamish posse as well. But I'll be flying in for the Atlanta game, checking out the Atlanta Bees as well, who have hooked up some of the events down there in Atlanta, which is all good. So I'll be able to hook up with them. But also bees that are coming in from all over the place. Nashville bees, coming from Nashville. Tallahassee bees are coming down. We've obviously got bees coming down from Philadelphia, all over the place, which should be quite good as well. So looking forward to that. And then afterwards, like I said, we're going to go up to Washington, which is all good. And I'll tell you something. I wouldn't even mind if we could. Might be able to find a pool party somewhere if we keep our fingers crossed, Laney. I'm not sure, but I'm just saying to you, if we can do, I think that's got to be our aim. If we can actually just find a pool party somewhere in America along the way, and we can sort of bring our Brentford stuff and say we are Brentford. Is that you reckon that's on?
Yep. You taking your speedos, Bill?
I'll bring in my Speedos just in case, you know what I'm saying, which is all good. So, so like I said to you, so the USA tour, and also, like I said to you, there's a few of the legends who are going to be out there as well. I mean, I've been talking to Gary Blissett quite a lot over the past couple of years. I spoke to him only, I think, last week, and he's going to be down there, so he's going to be doing some bits and pieces in these events that are going to be happening. And also Paul Buckle, the Buckle, who was in the Globe only a couple of months ago, or I think it was probably last month, just before the end of the season. Paul Buckle was there, and I was chatting to him a couple of days ago, so he's going to be also taking part in some of the events at the bars as well. And obviously Marcus Gale, the original Marcus Gale, is going to be flying over as well. 3 Brentford ambassadors, they're going to be there, just doing stuff with the fans, and we're going to be doing a podcast. We're going to try and do this as much as possible, a podcast a day. So we're going to be doing a podcast a day, just trying to document exactly what went down in the US tour. So I podcast every single day, you know, not only in and around the football, but in and around America. We'll just document what's going to go out there. So if you're looking forward to that, it could be quite a laugh, because there's lots of other things going on other than the football, isn't there, Laney?
Yeah, as I said, you know, it's a part of the travelling around and the journey. So we'll try and record our travelogue, and there'll be lots of Brentford fans travelling. You know, whether they're ones from West London or whether they're ones from West Virginia, they're going to be, you know, heading towards these big cities, and as well as the fans of the other clubs that are making the journey. You know, this obviously Chelsea and Newcastle that are a part of that, so we'll see them out there, and gives us an opportunity to talk about last season and the season ahead, because, you know, we're all top half of the table clubs, and there's plenty to talk about, and we're all gearing up for the big start against Tottenham at home. And that's where it's all focused. But in between, we've got a really lovely distraction. So yeah, as I said, looking forward to it, mate.
And it's just got to say one last thing, because you were talking about, you know, Chelsea and all these other teams going to be there as well. The games are actually double headers. So for us, you know, we're buying one ticket, but we're seeing 2 games. You know, whether or not you've got any interest in, like, Chelsea versus Newcastle, whatever like that, or you rather just leave the ground and go to the bar, you know, that's we'll see on the day. But the fact is that you, in principle, get a double header. Now, I thought it was quite interesting, and it's just going to be, because they've done, it's very, very different. You know, buying the ticket buying experience, we talked about this before, was very, very different. It was quite hardcore. Tickets are quite expensive. The fees on the tickets are absolutely ridiculous. We know why the Americans come over, and they're so delighted when they pay £30 and £40 for a ticket, you know, when they get these tickets face value at New Griffin Park, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what we do. But over there, they get properly ripped off, and they say, you know, it's because that the people that go and, you know, football is probably a slightly different crowd than the people who go and follow the traditional American sports, which may be kind of, to a certain extent, delve more into the working classes, where football is much more middle class there. So the people that watch football, this is what they say, are prepared to pay more money. So people are prepared to pay, you know, £100, you know, pounds, £120, £150, £200, you know, plus the fees on top to go and watch a Premier League game, which is obviously very different than in the UK, where if the people start to charge prices like that, the fans would start revolting, like, you know. But what is interesting is, I say that, is that they've put us in a section. So in Washington, we're in a section, they said, the Brentford and Chelsea section are together. So they put the Brentford and Chelsea fans in, and you buy tickets in the same section together. Now that could be quite interesting, couldn't it?
It could be. Yeah. We'll have to see how that pans out. But I'm assuming it's going to pass without incident. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a bit feisty. But you know, I can't imagine that being the vibe. But you know, I don't rule it out. You know what I mean? You know,
again, it's just why. If you didn't have to, well, you know, you could have just, you know, listen, we're not all for segregation as such, but you could have just put the Chelsea fans together, and the, you know, in one section, and the Brentford fans in another section, and then we'll all be kind of happy. But at the moment now, we're kind of all over the place trying to find each other. But anyway, like I said to you, these things are going to be interesting, which we'll be reporting back on the podcast first hand as to what our experience is, because obviously, like I said to you, sport in America is dealt with very differently than it is sport in the UK, and I'm sure there's going to be some very positive things, but there's also going to be some very interesting things as well. Anyway, and just talking about pre-season, just moving on, Laney mentioned it earlier, the first Saturday in August, we have our home game against Lille, so all the players would have come back, and that is normally the game where Brentford put out the team that they're going to the team that they're going to start with on the first day of the season. So we're playing against Lille. Tickets are actually on sale now, so you can actually reserve your seat that you normally sit in, or you can go and decide to sit somewhere else in the stadium. And Lille, interesting team as well, because last season they finished fifth. I think they finished in France. Did they finish fifth in France? Yeah, they finished fifth in France, which meant that they would have been on. Well, they're going on European tour, and we potentially might have played them on European tour if we got a couple of more points. But saying that, we thought, tell you something, let's just get an idea of like how good or not good Lille are. So what we did is we went to the Benham table, the Justice League, the worldwide Justice League, where they pot teams against each other to just get an idea of how they fare. And Brentford used this table, not necessarily this specific one, because we got our own one when we were actually playing against opposition teams, or when we're trying to buy players, to get a gauge of maybe how good they may be and how they'll fit into our side. So this is an interesting league table. Like I said, it's got every team pretty much in the world potted against each other. And last time we talked about this, we haven't talked about this for a while. Brentford were, as we got promoted, we were sort of kind of about 90th, 80th, round about that. At the moment now, Brentford are 20th in the world. In the world.
In the world, Bill.
20. It is. It's 20th. We
used to be 20th in London, mate.
Yeah. So we're 20th in the world at the moment in the world league table. So which is quite mad. Okay, it's an XG table. It's a stats table as such. So it's still very relevant. But interestingly, Lille are 19th. So what we're doing is we're pitting ourselves against a team who are kind of roughly the same strength of us, who are interestingly fifth best team in France. And just to give you an idea of teams in and around us, according to this table, Ajax are 18, Inter Milan are 17, Man United are 16th, Sporting are 22nd, Porto are 23rd, Lyon are 26th, Celtic are 30th, Marseille are 34th, Villarreal 37th, Roma are 40th, Red Bull Salzburg, we're going to talk about them in a bit, they're 41st, Tottenham, interestingly, are 43rd in this table, so it just gives you an idea. Juventus 49th, Seville 51st. So it keeps going on. Lazio 55th. So it kind of gives you an idea. I mean, Brentford are when it comes to the things that we're doing on the pitch, we're right up there. Should be an interesting game, that, Laney.
Yeah, 100%. When you say that 20th in the world, it does make you kind of laugh in a good way. We are kind of still quite humble, and we are kind of enjoying this journey. But if the powers that be and the people that make these decisions, if that's what they believe in, we can scoff all we want. I think it probably is a true reflection of where we actually are at this stage. Staying there is the hard part now. It's not set in stone. That does move. We just got to make sure we don't slip down to 100th in the season ahead. So and it just shows you that they put their faith in it so much that they will pick the friendlies to give themselves the best possible test of where they truly are. The thing I will say about the friendlies before we move on is we play Lille at the GTEC on the 5th of August, the curtain raiser on Sunday the 13th against Tottenham at 2 p.m. That's more than it's a week and a day ahead. Is there something going to be? There might be a behind closed doors game to be slipped in there, but it seems to be quite a gap between the Lille match and the Tottenham game. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something else might get slipped in there, but it might be a behind closed doors one.
Possibly. And just quickly coming back to the world table as it is, like I said to you, the Justice League, just to give it, because some people go, what's he? I've never heard of this world table thing. It's based on this Soccer Power list, which is a very much stats based, which ranks domestic football teams in the world based on goals scored, adjusted goals, shot based expected goals, and non-shot expected goals as well. So there's all these stats things that are thrown in basically on how you're playing your football, the shots that you take, where you should have scored, could have scored, all this kind of stuff basically is kind of how good you're playing your football. So that's where it is. So no, it's not based on your league position, because that'll be too simple. This is kind of based on how you're playing your football, and that's probably the reason why you get teams like Tottenham who are much lower in this league table than they actually are in the league, because they've got players like Harry Kane who scores every time he touches the ball, basically. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if you've got other players inside there, they may not have the same result with the same type of chances. So so interesting there. Anyway, tell you something. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about some transfers. So as we know, transfer window's been open for a while now, and there's been a bit of activity with Brentford. It's interestingly, sitting down and talking with fans of other clubs. A lot of clubs are like moaning that they've got nothing going on, and they say compared to like Brentford's got everything going on. You know, they've got loads of transfers happening, and we've got nothing going on in our place. And we're actually thinking, well, there's not that much going on at Brentford either. And I think part of the problem is also we kind of did a bit of our business really early. You know, with we bought a couple of players. We bought Mark Flecken, which is the goalkeeper, because David Raya has decided not to sign a new contract. So we got him early. We said, look, let's just get a goalkeeper in and let's just relax so we can relax for next season. So that was quite interesting that we got Mark Flecken in as well. And then also, like I said to you, the latest buy that we've had, or the latest big buy that we've had, Nathan Collins, centre-back from Wolverhampton Wanderers. Broken our transfer record, but that's not surprising at the moment now, because obviously the transfer market keeps moving, and as we stay in the league year on year, you can only expect us to buy bigger and better players, as they say, with the money that we've got. So we're going to continue to keep breaking our transfer record. Now, we're not going mad like some teams do and spending 50 and 60 million, so we're breaking it from 20 million to like 25 million, and going from there. So Nathan Collins, big centre back from Wolverhampton Wanderers, 25 or 26 million pounds we've spent on him, and according to a lot of people, a very good buy, because he's a solid player, experienced player, good in the air. So he's good defensively in the air for us, also good attacking wise in the air for us, and for a team who is number one in set pieces, this is going to add to our artillery.
Yeah, he's a big signing for us. With Pontus retiring, with Aya not necessarily fit all the time, we need options at the back, and it's someone that's got Premier League experience. I think Wolves fans were particularly angry that we'd gone in with what they considered was a derisory offer. The offer was increased, I believe, but it wasn't vastly different to the first one, and it got the man. I think Ben Mee will be familiar with him. He was, Collins was at Burnley in the 21-22 season before moving to Wolves for the 22-23. So he's had a couple of kind of movie years since he left Stoke at the end of 2021. But he's been capped 14 times for Republic of Ireland. So he's someone that's kind of growing. His trajectory is on the up, and I guess it's a bit of a coup for us to get someone with so much potential, and someone who's really highly regarded after his season in the Prem with Wolves. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating one to see how he gels in, because the centre back pairing is something that is we've taken for granted a lot of last season, but we do need cover. And we do need competition. So he's someone that's very much welcome to the squad.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because obviously you mentioned the fact that him and Ben Mee were together. Ben Mee's been a brilliant signing for Brentford, and he is he's a record signing at £26 million. So sometimes you don't turn around and say we're going to put our record signing player on the bench, or do you? So the question that you've got Collins, you've got Ben Mee, and you've got Ethan Pinnock, and obviously research at Beesotted sort of kind of had to go out there to try and see if we could find a little bit more info as to whether or not this is going to mean that Ethan Pinnock's going to be consigned to going to another club, because he is a great player. But no, not at all. Ethan Pinnock is very much part of the new setup for Brentford. So it looks like the three of them are going to be kind of finding, working between themselves with whether or not it's going to be a 2 that they're going to be playing in, or whether or not it's going to be a 3 they're playing in. Obviously, then we've got Aya as well coming in, and also anybody else who may or may not play in that position.
Yep, and our starting lineups, they do vary. They may vary even more because we've got now Ivan Toney, who was that real fulcrum. He was a real target. We are going to be playing a different way unless we go out and buy an out replacement for Ivan, which I can't see. And I can expect that we would bring in an attacking player or a centre forward as such. I think we're still light up front. But I think that 4/5 at the back is something we're going to see, but like move around depending on the opposition, depending whether we're home and whether away, and just the threat of who we're coming up against. So we need options. So Collins certainly does add to our armoury, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then interestingly, because it's almost like we've gone centre-back crazy, so we've actually bought another centre-back, a very highly rated centre-back. It's Kim Ji-soo, South Korean centre-back. He was actually a very young, 18-year-old player, plays South Korea, who was excellent in the Under-20s World Cup, and we've plucked him. And he's, again, just like Yarmouk, who we talked about before, he's in our B team, but he's one of those players like Yarmouk, we're going to talk about in a bit, Bidstrup as well, who are kind of those sort of kind of B team plus A team minus players. So we're looking to develop him maybe to become an A team player, maybe in a couple of seasons' time when one of these players we talk about moves on, as they normally do. Ethan Pinnock might move on, Ben Mee maybe moving on into, coaching or whatever he might do in a couple of years' time. So that's what we're looking for. So interesting though, because obviously South Korean players from certain parts of the world, we don't buy as much because there are work permit issues which are involved with them. But obviously him being an international, I think, allowed him to get a permit, to play for Brentford. But quite exciting, we're venturing into new areas, isn't it, Laney?
Yeah, I'm just fascinated by the journey and how we're evolving. It's like you say we paid £26 million for Nathan Collins. Is he definitely? Does that guarantee him a start? I'd say not anymore. Let's just think. Ethan Pinnock's probably worth 30, and although Ben Mee's probably not got a resale value because of his age, but I can't see him. Both of them being fit, I can't see him breaking up the Mee-Pinnock partnership at the back unless they have to. So I do expect Collins to be on the bench or to kind of be introduced slowly, unless you see a complete drop off. But we wouldn't be going into a season with an inferior squad to the one we finished the last one with, because I've said it a couple of times before. You think the money that we've got by being in the Premiership, the third season, we're approaching best part of £500 million of money incoming from TV deals and just being in at the top table. That's the kind of money we're bringing into the club now. So 22 million from 400 million. It's proportional. The numbers are bonkers to me, mate. But it's not as if we've done 100 mil on a player, and you're kind of thinking this is getting a bit out of hand now. I think everything is proportionate into what's coming in. So I'm not overly concerned.
No, and then there's players that we're linked with, and as you know, we don't like to go into sort of gossip zone. We like to bring you sort of news if we know that there's actually a proper sniff behind it. If there's a little bit of kind of substance behind it. So there's a few players that have been linked with, but again, you have to realise in the transfer window, you do inquire about a lot of players. You do get a lot of knockbacks. So it's kind of like when it gets to that stage where you might actually start talking about them. So there are a few players being linked to, people like Brennan Johnson as well, which you all know about. But what we're going to probably do is we're going to talk about this next week when we've had and as we go into the more of the closed season, post season as well, when we've got more information coming up. So talking about sort of buys. Because and the reason why we say that is because at the moment now there is nothing on the horizon for Brentford. Not saying that we're not going to buy anybody, but at the moment now we're talking to lots of different people, but it's not one of the scenarios where it's going to be like your Nathan Collins or something else around the corner where something's imminently going to happen. You have to remember, because people start fretting. The transfer window closes at the end of August, and normally, to be quite honest with you, that's when a lot of the activity happens. People leave it till the last minute. They like to see you play a few matches, start making a couple of bids when the season started again. So listen, don't sweat yourself. We've got plenty of time. As we said before, this transfer window, literally, it would be much better if it was like a week rather than making it so long, because if it's a week, then everyone will get their business done. We can just get on with it. But unfortunately, we have to pander to Sky, so that they've got their long 2 months and 3 months that they can talk about this. But anyway, talk about selling. A little bit of a surprise came up here because we had a player that we were really looking forward to coming back from his 18-month spell in Nordsjælland. He went to Nordsjælland, Bidstrup, and midfielder, really exciting midfielder, played a few times for our first team, went over to Nordsjælland, he ripped it up over there. Player of the year in Nordsjælland, who finished second in the Superligaen, which is the Danish league over there, just behind Copenhagen. So really good player, really well known. What is interesting is that Brentford actually set a price on him of 9 to 11 million euros, okay, which is kind of what, 7 to 9 million pounds, something like that. 6, 7, 9 million pounds was the price they set on him, and a lot of clubs were getting really upset about that because they were like, hold on a second, we've got players who are in the Danish national side who are worth less than that. So Brentford are obviously setting this price so that they don't want to sell him because they think we rate this player really highly. Then bang, all of a sudden, out the blue comes RB Salzburg, who have put in a bid for him, and it looks like he's just done a medical, and he's very close to actually signing to Salzburg, which is interesting because he came from RB Leipzig, so they came from Red Bull Leipzig, and we're selling him back to Red Bull Salzburg. So it's like, thank you very much for giving us that player for not very much money, and we'll sell him back to you for lots more money and lots more add-ons. So interesting deal this for Bees, because we miss a player who potentially could be very good, but the reality is he's still a way down the pecking order at Brentford. Maybe fourth, maybe fifth, maybe sixth down the pecking order, and so we'd be sending him out on loan to AFC Wimbledon or somebody again, and he's got a chance of playing for Salzburg, and this is good for him and it's good for us as well.
Yes, I think I'm similar to a lot of Brentford fans who were kind of had really high expectations of Mads Bidstrup coming back and fighting it out in the midfield with people like Norgard and Janelt, and just coming of age and sort of blossoming and sort of starting to reach his potential. But as you rightly say, he's had an absolute superb year in Denmark last year with Nordsjælland, and you can't really stand in his way. It's in the same way as Marcus Forss, this time last year. If you're not going to use him every week, you kind of got to allow them to, as they say, spread their wings. Is that a Red Bull thing to say? It's I can see why it's happening. I can see why people are saying equally, oh God, what's the point of developing them, and as soon as they get the first offer comes in, they sell. But you've got to see this as well from the player and the agent's perspective as well. I'm sure the conversations happened. Look, he's on the best form of his life. What are you going to do with him next year? And they're going to say, well, he's 4th, 5th, 6th, as you say, in the pecking order. We're not really going to do anything with him next year. He might get some B games. We might send him out, and it's not ideal for someone who's kind of like just had a great year and they can see their trajectory. So a move to Salzburg in Austria, a pay rise, and European football is something that I'm sure is really, really appealing, and I can see why it's happened. So I can see both sides of that coin, to be honest with you, Bill.
And yeah, 100%. And you talk about this. I mean, the price, for this players, and you sort of think, some people sort of say, talk about selling these players and should we be selling these players? But the reality is, and I'm just, don't shoot the don't shoot the messenger, but I'm just saying that the reality is that, we're a football club who's developing players, but also there's a business. If anything, we probably we don't say we don't treat it as a business, but we are less than Brighton, Brighton just haul all these players that they find, all these players using all their stats, they bring them in, and then they send them out on loan, and the reason why they do it, basically they just do it to sell them. So it's actually a business model that they've got, and the ones that they want to keep, they keep, but they bring in much more than they're ever going to bring into their team, because they send them straight out on loan, because the idea is that they go to sell them. We don't do that as much. What we do is we bring our B team players, and if we think they're decent enough, we'll send them out on loan, and then hopefully if they come good again, then we probably bring them into the first team. But if they don't, then we think, okay, we're looking for an opportunity to offload you now, and we send you off. But you have to realise, like I said to you, it is a business, and if we get an opportunity which they feel is right, so okay, €6 million, which is good, because it'll give us a little bit of money towards another player. But the idea is that if he kicks off and he does really well, and he ends up becoming a 30 or 40 million pounds player, then we actually get money off the back of that, and that's good for Brentford. So and the whole idea, like I said to you, of sitting on the bench or sitting in the B team, and getting 20 minutes here, 15 minutes there every 3 or 4 games isn't good for a player like that. Makes it really, really difficult. So I think the interesting thing is that there was a question going around. I think you were asking it, we were asking it, because if you go into Beesotted.com, or if you go to prideofwest.london, you can check out that we did a documentary on the B team. If you just go to our Acast site and you just scroll down and you find it, I think it was done in about 2015, 2016 when it was first started. Interview with Rob Rowan, interview with a load of the players, Kev O'Connor, and that was really interesting, because that was the start of the B team then, and very exciting period where we had players who we were very excited about that going into the first team. We knew them all, we knew the players by name, they used to come down and sit on our podcasts and stuff like that. Now, time's moved on quite a lot since then, and as Brentford have gone up in stature, it's become a lot harder to get from the B team into the first team. So what's interesting now is that we've got our inverted commas reserve players selling for £6 million, and £7 million. And another player who's actually done that as well is a player called Alex Gilbert, who we sold to Middlesbrough. Highly rated player, a player that I think we wanted to kind of extend his contract and get him onto the next stage, but Middlesbrough came in and they signed him. But the most amazing thing is that, if you remember, not too long ago, us and Middlesbrough were in the same plane. Middlesbrough, that team that always used to beat us, Karanka's team beat us in the playoffs, and every year they used to beat us, even though we played better than them. That was only like 4 or 5 years ago, you know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, tables have turned, we're in the Premier League, they're back there now, and Middlesbrough are buying our reserve player, and then all our Middlesbrough chums, as you know, we're very good, lots of chums in Middlesbrough, literally all of them called us up, all the 12th Man and the Ramble podcast, all their podcasts and all their fan channels. Tell us about Alex Gilbert. They literally wanted us to tell us about Alex Gilbert, because they knew nothing. There was no information on him whatsoever. And luckily, Griffin Waterman very kindly got us out a bit of deep water there, and he gave all these people some good information on Alex Gilbert, because to be quite honest with you, I'll be honest with you, we didn't really have that much info on him, because it's just a different era, isn't it, Laney?
Yeah, it is. You can't be an expert on the B team as well. You can be, but I don't watch. I have watched them a fair bit, but I can't. I'm not going to give him a scouting report on Alex Gilbert. I know he's. I trust the process. Again, it goes with our blessing, and it is one for his development. I'm sure that we'll reap the financial benefits of that, but there's obviously decisions that have been made, and just because you're the player of the year in the B team and you get invited into the A team or what have you, there's still, it's important that our football club is run sustainably. I haven't got a problem with that. We can't keep everyone. No, not every player is going to reach their potential at our club, and the most important thing is that we're not selling our crown jewels for bargain prices. If we were selling sort of Ivan or Brian or indeed even David Raya for way less than our valuation, then there lies a problem, because you're not the thing. The very the great things that have got us to where we are being able to unearth relatively inexpensive talent and then sell them for way more than we bought them for. That has to continue, and it becomes more and more difficult to do that, because you're paying more. But it's. I think there's. I'm not looking at the sale of Alex Gilbert to Middlesbrough or the Force the season before and going, oh, this is broken. This system's broken here. We're just not able to keep hold of everyone, and it's also great to see. You mentioned players that used to come down and sit on our podcast from the B team. I was really, really delighted for Reece Cole, who he after moving from Brentford, he struggled, I think, a bit for a couple of moves, and he was playing at Chertsey Town. Well, he's done firmly. He played at Chertsey, 5 games for Chertsey last season, and then he went to Hayes and Yedding, and I'm thinking you're way better than that, and his belief in himself is obviously clearly better than that. He's back in the Football League with Exeter City. He signed this week, just gone. So I'm absolutely delighted for Reece Cole. But yeah, it's we can't keep all of these players, and we're going to have to get used to it. And sometimes we're going to scratch our heads, but all the time that we're maintaining or bettering our previous league position or going close to in the top flight, you're going to have to trust those people that are making those decisions.
Yeah, and talking about making decisions as well. I mean, Sergi Canos has made a decision to wear a T-shirt in the training ground. I mean, Sergi Canos, listen, I think he's pretty much our oldest serving player as well. We signed him in. He was on loan initially. He was on loan, and then we signed him permanently after him going to Norwich for a bit, and then resigning him to the Norwich reserves. We were very delighted to get him back for 2.5 million. He's done his time. He scored some great goals. He's got his passion. He loves Brentford. He's gone on. But obviously as time has gone on, and he had his injuries, so he's been less involved in the Brentford first team. But his involvement has still been very important. And Brentford and him have thought it's time for you to go. So Brentford are thinking, okay, you could leave, but they obviously want to get a price for him. And whoever who's coming in from him obviously haven't offered the right price. And Sergi is getting a little bit narky about it. I mean, I think the latest team is Valencia, who's one of his childhood dream teams that he always wanted to play for. And Valencia sort of kind of come in for him apparently, but Brentford haven't obviously sold him to Valencia because they haven't actually offered any money. I mean, I can tell you for a fact they've not offered anything for Sergi, so how could he leave if they haven't actually offered anything for him? So it's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's really weird. There's a lot of in quotes giving him the benefit of the doubt for wearing a T-shirt that read "Please help me" on the front of it when he turned up first day of training. It's clear, in my eyes, that clearly is about him finding first team football and being allowed to leave. I don't think he was happy that Brentford extended their option on him for a further year when his contract came to an end. But he's a player with value. Whether a team wants to come in and pay anything for him is a different matter. But he, on his day, is a very, very good top flight European League player. I think we've moved past Sergi, and it's sad to say and it's sad to see, but it's just football. It's just the way time moves on, and I just can't. It baffles me that this is going to be allowed to get kind of really unsavoury, and the last sort of 7, 8, 9 years are going to be threatened with it getting really quite narky. Others are saying, oh, it's just a T-shirt. It was a bit of banter between him and the physios. I don't see that. It's possible, but I just think there's a lot of people sort of making excuses for him. I mean, again, I'm not going to diss the guy because he is a Brentford legend, and I want him to remain that. Yes, it needs closure, but Brentford could get £1 million, £2 million for him, and because he's worth that. And if Valencia don't want him, then Sergi's boyhood team, he's not gonna go there. So, but there are other clubs that probably do want him, and probably might be prepared to pay £1 million or £2 million for him.
Well, I think the thing is with Valencia, they're financially in a bit of a pickle. They're one of these clubs who are not the best run clubs in the world, from what I can gather. Again, I'm not going to say allegedly, but I was just, if you look at it online, so I think there are a few problems at Valencia. So whether or not they're able to stump up the cash is a different story, and maybe that's the reason why they actually haven't put a bid in. So there's, like I said to you, there's always a bigger story, there's always a bigger picture out there. Sergi Canos, we talked about Dervisoglu as well. We talked about him because obviously he played his usual first friendly match for Brentford before he goes off, and like I said to you, quite a few clubs sniffing around him, Turkish clubs mainly, sort of Galatasaray, I don't know, Besiktas, I don't know. You could just name whatever the top 4 Turkish sides are, and they're all after him. Again, there's actually a lot of interest in Dervisoglu for this window, like a lot of interest. Now, whether or not they meet our valuation of him, that is a different story altogether, but there is a lot of interest in him. So what I'd say is, unless things don't quite go to plan, I would expect to see Halil probably move on from Brentford, which will free up another player from the wage bill for us, and also allow us to bring somebody else in who we'll need to, because we were talking about the players that we need to bring in, and obviously both myself and yourself, Laney, turned around and said, I think we probably need a striker, because we're going to have a striker missing for the first 5 months of the season. So I think that's sort of kind of hot on the wish list, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and I'd say left back as well. I mean, we have this perennial conversation, it seems, that who's the cover for Rico. Rico had an incredible season last year. We're still scratching our heads working out why he wasn't included in any of Gareth Southgate's England squads. Maybe that'll happen this year, hopefully. I still think we might need a CDM. Janelt and Norgard. Norgard in particular was a bit fragile last year. If we can get a whole season out of him, then brilliant. But if we can't, then I think there's someone else that has to happen there. Is Josh De Silva a full season player as well? Of the outgoings, I'd say, just finishing off on the outgoings, David Raya needs closure. Halil, as you said, looks like he's going to go to Turkey. Sergi needs closure. Charlie Good needs some sort of closure. Mads Beck Sorensen needs to go as well, I'd say. So, I think there'll be a lot more outs, but I am expecting maybe 1, 2, stroke 3 biggie ins. So it could be an exciting next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, mate.
Yeah, and just finally on the outs as well. No, we're not saying this is the case, because what's happened is that this information goes and flies around Tinternet, as they say, but then you start talking about it, and this is one person within the club who is actually rumoured to be going out. This is Lee Dykes, who's a technical director. Okay, as people sort of think he's the person that sort of kind of buys or is responsible for sort of buying and scouting and selling the players. Lee Dykes, he's been at the club for quite a while, and the funny thing about it is that the interesting thing is that the team who are very excited about nabbing him off us are Leeds United. So Leeds United, who got relegated, as you know, to the Championship, are talking about stealing, poaching Brentford's technical director, and the Leeds fans are half of them are getting really excited, thinking, yeah, Brentford's got the best recruitment in the world. They actually admit it now, so we're going to get their recruitment policy, we're going to guy all the players, and there's another half of them going, oh Christ, I can't believe we've stooped as low to actually kind of having to be getting excited about nicking people from Brentford. So that for me, that's quite an interesting juxtaposition, as it, Laney. What do you think about that?
I think that I remember Southampton fans getting really excited when Rasmus was poached from us as well. These people are hugely talented, but you take them outside the Brentford ecosystem, then they're not quite the same as they were within it. So for Leeds, I think it would be a impressive signing or a coup, but I'm sure that I know for a fact that there's always kind of there's policies and there's contingencies in place for replacing staff that leave. So Phil Giles was going up to Leeds, I'd be a bit hacked off, I'd say. But I won't be losing sleep over it. But I might be calling that one wrong.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see how it goes with whether or not it happens or not. Because at the end of the day, like I said to you, it's out there. He may be talking to them. He might do like, you know, what the late great Rob Rowan did at one time, where he spoke to Rangers and then he turned them down and he said, right, thank you very much, but I actually don't want to join you. Thank you very much. You know what I'm saying? So you just never know what's going to be happening out there, and that would be quite funny if actually Lee Dykes did that and he came. I spoke to them and I thought, actually no, thank you very much, I'm not going to join you. I'll join somebody else or I'll stay at Brentford. Anyway, so listen, we're going to
you mean stay in the Premier League? Is that what you meant?
That's right, exactly.
Yes.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's the choice that he had. He goes, I think I might even go to Burnley, or you know, maybe go to Sheffield United. You know, but
but anyway, lower leagues.
That's right. Okay, so the children that we are, you know, we'd find that funny. But anyway, just moving on. Just last thing that we want to talk about, actually, there is a film premiere happening very soon, Friday the 21st of July, at 6 o'clock at the Waterman's Arts Centre in Brentford. It's a film called The Mighty Penguins, and it's a film which is about the Brentford Penguins, which is a team that was put together by Brentford legend who played in the FA Cup quarter-final and also played in our team back in the 90s, Allan, who also is one of our socials a few years ago. Allan has got this film that's been put together, which is a wicked movie apparently. He's actually just come back from the Tribeca Film Festival in New York, where it was premiered over there. So they're actually doing a private screening of Mighty Penguins, 21st of July at the Waterman's Arts Centre, 6 o'clock. You have to email to get your name on the guest list. It's hello@fevermediagroup.com. That's hello@fevermediagroup.com, and that'll get you there. Or just like I said to you, just look for, you know, Mighty Penguins, look for Brentford Penguins, and they'll have all the information on there on Facebook, on Twitter, and it's on their website as well. So that sounds like it's going to be a really good little movie, doesn't it, Laney?
Yeah, I've been, you know, we did a big podcast with Allan last season, didn't we? Looking back at the '89 Cup run, and Allan's is an absolute inspiration. He's a top guy. He was a brilliant player, I thought, and for him to be putting so much energy into Brentford Penguins is superb. They, you know, when the players come, they sit in front of us at the games. So yeah, you know, well done.
And just to explain, the Brentford Penguins are actually a Down's syndrome football team that Allan's put together. So all the players have Down syndrome, and he's put this team together, and they play in a league. They're affiliated to Middlesex FA, and like I said to you, he's put his heart and soul into the whole thing. And like I said to you, you know, the kids sit in front of us. You can see them cheering and getting really excited when Brentford score, and it's just like, you know, making them part of that whole Brentford community. So it really is. So this is going to be, like I said, a different movie, definitely worth checking out. 100%. Yeah, shame
I'm not around next Friday. I go out to America for ahead of the game on the Sunday. So if I was around, I would have tried to get my name down. So if you are here on Friday night, get down and support Brentford Penguins, support the film, support Allan. That's right, definitely. We put that in the information box as well in this podcast. But anyway, tell us something, good little catch up with you, Laney. We talked about quite a few bits, considering there's a lot going on, but there's not that much going on as we would have liked to at this stage of the close season. Yeah, well, you're going to have to put up with me every day for the next 10 days or so. So we'll be podcasting a lot, and we can, while we're away, we can sort of hopefully report on all the latest to-ins and goings, because I think a lot of that might be happening when we're away. So it's going to be a busy time. Definitely going to be a busy time. So this is the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to buy us a beer. Brentford, Beesotted.com/beer. I haven't done that for a while, so that's why it's all out of my head as well. Don't forget to write us a review on iTunes or any other podcast channel. Don't forget to just check us out. Don't forget to go prideofwest.london and subscribe to that, so that all our podcasts from America come straight to your phone or your laptop or your iPad or whatever it may be. So check us out. I've got myself, Billy Grant, in the house, and I've got Laney in the place. Yeah, see you later. If you're going over to the States and you're a USB and you like our podcast, we'll definitely say yes to a beer when we're out there, won't we, Bill? Definitely. Okay, we'll catch you very, very soon, as we say. Come on, you bees. Come on, you bees. Come on. Let's do soccer. Go bees. Go Brentford. Sucks. Enough of that, mate. Enough of that.